Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here and we are live. And, ladies and gentlemen, it is week 14 of the NFL season in 2024. Thanksgiving is in the rearview mirror, but it's never too late or too early. If we're talking about next year, never too late or too early to give thanks. And I'm very thankful for a great many things. I'm very thankful for you. I'm very thankful for the platform with which to talk about this league and sport that I love. I'm thankful for all kinds of things. Not even American. It's not my Thanksgiving. It's yours. I had mine back in October, but your boy's very thankful for a great many things. So we're coming off of a nice, tidy little week in week 13, which was really good. A nice rebound from week 12, where I was a little behind the eight ball, basically across the board. Whereas, this past week in week 13, I was in front of the eight ball, basically across the board. Double digits straight up and double digits on the totals as well. So we definitely enjoy that. Almost double digits against the spread, which is, hey, again, like, that's what you shoot for. As far as I'm concerned, that's what you shoot for basically every single week. If you hit double digits every week, you're at like 170 wins or 180 wins across the whole season, and that's puts you in some pretty elite territory. I'm probably not going to get there, but that's always what you shoot for. You aim for those double digit weeks, and you're always going to have yourself a good time if you can hit that. All right. Without further ado, we've only got 13 games, as it's Bye-Pocalypse Part 2. So we will go ahead and get started with the show this week. Andrew Warren is already in the chat saying I'm here and I just got my video uploaded. Awesome. Very good. In 5, 4, 3, what's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to week 14 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2024 NFL season and postseason. And boy, the postseason is going to be here very, very soon. I feel like we're still not fully contextualizing in our brains just how quickly the NFL playoffs are going to be here. We're talking like a month. Like, I know it's a little bit more than that, but man, like, we are so close. We are this close to playoff football. And for a lot of these teams, in a lot of cases, playoff football might be starting now, because there are definitely teams that are not quite in the first overall conversation, but they're not quite out of the playoff conversation either. So if they're going to start playing playoff football, has to start right now. So I take that same philosophy in doing what I do, trying to make the correct picks. My playoffs begin now, and I got off to a really good start there towards playoff mentality in week 13. Double digits straight up went 11-5. Double digits on the totals went 10-5-1, which is excellent. And against the spread, almost double digits, 9-7. So again, strong picks across the board. Now 118-77 picking the league straight up, 108-83-4 against the spread, and 97-94-4 on the totals. 3 games above 500, where I've been trending under 500 for the last few weeks now. So definitely feeling good about where the totals are at the very least, trending in the right direction. In the Bridgewater's finest pick'em pool for season 13 of this show, I'm still in 21st place out of 34 in that pool, 1,070 out of 1,567 possible confidence points. It's a clip of just a little bit under 68.5%. Look, I've talked about it. Championship clip is 70%. It seems like our boy Tyler is blowing that out of the water this season, but we'll talk about that when it gets there. I brought in 118 of 136 confidence points last week, which is 86.8%. A super strong week. Not good enough when you have not one, but 2 people run the table, 16-0 in a week. It obviously doesn't happen all the time. It's super special when it does, and to have 2 people do it in the same week, pretty incredible. Shout out to Huizamran Boozehound. I love that last name. I'm hoping I pronounced the first name correctly. Huizumran, H-U-I, or H-U, is it H-U-I or H-U-L? Huisomran, and then the last name being Boozehound, as well as Baby Got Dak. Went perfect 16-0, 136 of 136 confidence points, 100%. You cannot do any better than that. Shout out to two of them for doing that in the same week. Pretty incredible. Tyler's Picks remains the overall leader, just shy of 1,200 confidence points on the season, 1197 of 1567. That's a clip of 76.4%, which is massive this deep into the season. Like, we're 13 weeks deep. It's not like it's a fluke anymore. Tyler's just really, really good at this, and somebody needs to make a move. Like, absolutely needs to start taking some chances, trying to catch up, because if not, Tyler's going to walk away with this thing. We're going to take a peek into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, brought to you by my good friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And if you're like me and have taken the step into Dynasty, Keeper, and long-term fantasy football, the Dynasty Trade Calculator is one of the absolute best resources available to you online in that context. It does not matter how your league is configured. The Dynasty Trade Calculator has got you covered with customized rankings, trade evaluations. There's a number of great podcasts and a number of great experts that are available to you on the DTC. And for as little as a cup of coffee, you can gain access to this incredible tool to give you that extra edge, give you that step forward in trying to manage your dynasty team and bring you closer to dynasty championships, like it has done for me. My affiliate link is in the description below. And once again, for as little as a cup of coffee, you can gain access to this incredible tool. I went 5-3 across my 8 fantasy football teams last week, which means I'm 62-42 on the season, 20 full games above 500 in fantasy football this year. In best ball, I'm holding on to first place in one of my best ball leagues. The other two, I'm 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. So again, really just kind of getting started still with best ball. The 8th place is my money league, so it's not looking like I'm going to be winning any money this year. And we have officially reached that part of the season where it's time to start talking about the fantasy football playoffs. And look, I'm in 8 leagues. I've made no bones about the fact that I'm in 8 leagues. I have currently clinched a playoff spot in 3 of those 8 leagues, including both of my Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. So again, lest you question the power of the Dynasty Trade Calculator, your boy's making the playoffs in both of his Dynasty leagues. So 2 thumbs up there. Kind of an up and down week last week in the dynasty leagues. In the professionals dynasty fantasy football, I did lose to Conrad, who does have a powerhouse team in that league. That drops my record to 9-4. I'm in second place in that league. I've already clinched a playoff spot weeks ago. So, I'm just kind of moving towards the postseason at this point. And in the Ante & Co. Dynasty Fantasy Football League, I picked up the win last week against AJ, moves my record to 6-7, but most importantly, clinched a playoff spot in that league where I'm trying to defend a championship. And I started the season 0-4. So from an 0-4 start to 6-7, but clinching a playoff spot, shaking hands on that one. So we're going to see some postseason action in Ante & Co. Chip in a chair. Who knows what can happen? I have week 14 matchups against Kat, the blind Canadian Kat, who is in the chat right now, as well as Chris. So it's Kat in the professionals and Chris in Ante & Co. And I'll take this opportunity, as I always do, to remind you that if you go to the description of this live stream, of the VOD, of the podcast episode, however you interact and watch this show, you're going to find all of my results from last week, all of my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 14 in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool in season 13 of this show. You're also going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, which has been going for years and years now with a bunch of great prognosticators just like myself, giving you that great content, giving you those picks every single week, week in and week out. You're going to find those folks at the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. So, as I mentioned, we're in Bye-Pocalypse Part 2, where we've got 6 teams who are on their bye this week. Those teams include Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Indianapolis, the Patriots, as well as the Commanders. Now, when you're talking about like Bye-Pocalypse for bye weeks in fantasy football, I would argue that this week is worse than a couple of weeks ago. Like, so the Bye-Pocalypse Part 1 was 2 weeks ago, I think, right? Where it was Atlanta, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and the Jets. So, like, there's some big hitters there that were on bye that week, like, Bijan Robinson, Josh Allen. You're talking about Joe Burrow would have been on bye that week. Brian Thomas Jr. has been very good in fantasy this year. He would have been off. Alvin Kamara would have been off. Breece Hall. Like, were some big hitters there. But when you're talking about like Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Washington, even Indianapolis, these have been like fantasy football gold mines all season long. So I would definitely make the argument that this week is more brutal in terms of the Bye-Pocalypse. And again, for a lot of people, this is the final week of the regular season prior to the start of the playoffs. So this could be a must-win week for a lot of people in fantasy football, and that's a lot of high-profile talent to not have in your fantasy rosters this week. So I definitely sympathize with folks who are struggling with Bye-Pocalypse Part 2. Now, before we get into talking about the games this week, let's get caught up in the chat. It looks like I'm not disconnecting and reconnecting from the chat this week, which is great. I was having that problem last week. So let's get caught up with my friends here in the chat. Andrew Warren saying, like I said earlier, I'm here, just got my video uploaded. Broken Ankle is in the chat saying, I got my popcorn for another great episode. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Kat is in here saying, I know I've missed the last few weeks, but I'm going to go in on my double-digit spread theory. I'm going to go in. Beautiful. Fight the power. Broken Ankle also saying, I've heard Tyler has insider information. Hashtag smart insider man. It's entirely possible. Andrew saying, getting double digits in picks and in fantasy football, like finally passing from being a Padawan and transforming into a Jedi Master. Andrew, you have the weirdest and wildest comments sometimes, and it's I you know what? I'm pinning that. I'm pinning that as the pin message. I'm pinning that as the comment of the week because that goes in so many weird and wild and wonderful places. Geo Knows is in the chat. Andy, I was just watching your video and remember JR was on. I'll finish watching it after JR's show is over. Geo, love having you here, my friend. Thank you so much. We need to have some fun with Justin. Everybody needs to have fun. Tyler could be a Jedi Master. It's entirely possible. Battle for better seating that said between that was from Kat. Steve Garza is in the chat and he has a fantasy question. Flex 1, Pacheco, D-Hop, Quentin Johnson, or Njoku. I'm starting Jonnu at tight end. Okay. If I'm on the spot here, I still don't feel great. I think Pacheco still needs another week or two of ramping up. I don't really love anybody in that Chiefs Chargers game. I feel like that's a battle of two pretty good defenses. But man, it's tough not to say D-Hop because I think D-Hop, I think Mahomes has so much faith in Hopkins that I think I'd be tempted to go D-Hop. And it's a good spot for the flex as well, where that's the Sunday night game. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in your lineup where if something were to happen and D-Hop doesn't play, you have the ability to swap there and it doesn't kill you. You should have like some waiver wire or some free agency opportunities to make a change there should you need to. So gun to my head, I'm probably going to go Hopkins. Kat says the Chris versus Geo week gonna be a banger. The Chris versus Geo week. Something's going over my head there. All right. Hopefully somebody can explain that to me in the chat. But without further ado, let's get into the picks for week 14. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a Packers game on Thursday Night Football for the second consecutive week, which does mean that we did have to pick an alternate game to talk about in the Packers spot as we do the picks. So I put it out there on Twitter. I put it out to my Dynasty League mates. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, that's what he's talking about. Chris versus Gio week going to be a banger. That's exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about Vikings at home playing host to the Atlanta Falcons. Boom. Chris and Gio right there. That's the game that we're going to talk about in the Packers spot this week. But we are going to kick things off with Thursday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers on the road in Detroit taking on the Lions. Now, Detroit got the better of Green Bay earlier in the season to the tune of, I think it was 24-14. And I think that was back in, I want to say it was week 9. We're going to move my handy dandy. It was week 9. That game was in Green Bay. Packers were 3-point dogs in that game, and Detroit got them by 10. And that went a long way, I think, to kind of showing what the hierarchy was going to be this year in the NFC North. And look, I mean, Detroit's been undeniable. They've been undeniable all season long. Their offense is rolling. Their defense is absolutely rolling. And over the last month, you can say the same thing about the Packers. Their offense rolling along pretty well. Their defense, arguably right up there with Detroit's, at least from a statistical perspective, like over the last month. Like, look, this is the kind of football game that even if you're not a fan of either one of these teams, it's the kind of game you watch because it's just going to be a prime example of really good football. Packers are winners of 3 straight games. Detroit comes into this thing on a 10-game winning streak. Again, this team has been so exceptionally good. Haven't lost since, what is that, like week 2? Something like that. Like back where they were 1-1 and they've just reeled off 10 consecutive wins. Definitely feeling themselves. It's worth noting in this one, the Lions are 5-1 at home this year. Their one loss was at home, but I mean, look, nobody's going to poo-poo a 5-1 home record. The Packers have not lost away from Lambeau Field yet this year. They are a perfect 4-0 away from Lambeau, if you don't count the game in Brazil. Obviously, in week 1, neutral field. So I guess technically you can't say they're undefeated away from Lambeau because it was a neutral field game. But in terms of road games in actual NFL stadiums, the Packers are 4-0 this year. I'll tell you what I really don't like about this game. I don't like the spread. And it seems like it's not an unreasonable number, but the spread right now sits at 3.5. And look, Detroit is 4-2 against the spread at home this year. So they've found a lot of success, not only straight up, but they found a lot of success against Vegas as well. So I feel like either way you go in this game, I can understand it. Again, it's 2 exceptionally similar football teams. Detroit is, has been fairly undeniable most of this season. I think Green Bay gets them this week. I think these 2 teams are good enough and similar enough that I can't see one side or the other beating the same team twice. You know what I mean? I don't think that's unfair to say. Detroit got him in Green Bay. I think Green Bay gets him in Detroit. And look, these double-digit win streaks, they don't happen a ton. So, look, Detroit got to 10. I don't think they get to 11. Give me the Green Bay Packers on the road in Detroit to upset the Detroit Lions, snap that win streak, make things a little interesting in the NFC North, simply because, like, Detroit's kind of running away with it right now. It's crazy that Green Bay's 9-3 and 3rd in their division. It's unbelievable. But I think the Packers get them this week. Give me the Packers straight up to beat Detroit. So on the line, obviously, Detroit laying the -3.5. Give me the +3.5 on the Green Bay Packers, and let me give you one of these. My boy's lit up. He's lit up and ready to roll. So Packers win. Packers cover the +3.5. Total in this game, 51.5 points. I'm going to take the under here. I look at how these defenses have played over the last month. Detroit's giving up like 14 points a game in their last 4. Green Bay's giving up like 18. Like, these defenses are not giving up points. So I'm going to take the under here. 2 really good defenses, a number in the 50s. Give me an under. I'm going to go like 26-23, something like that. Maybe McManus walks this thing off. Packers win it 26-23. Packers cover the +3.5. Give me an under on the 51.5 point total. So now we're going to go through 3 games right quick before we talk about Atlanta at Minnesota as our next kind of featured matchup. Here's a game we're going to go through quickly. The Jacksonville Jaguars on the road in Tennessee taking on the Titans. So we're at the point now in the season where not only do we start monitoring who's clinched a playoff spot, who's clinched a division, who's clinched a conference even, but we're also going to start monitoring who's in that race for the first overall pick, because that's important too. Like, if you're not a team that's going to win, you want to be a team that loses bad enough, I guess, to get a higher profile draft pick. And I would say there's probably 8 teams across the league that are still competitive for that first overall pick. One of them is on bye this week, and that's the Patriots. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but this game features 2 such teams that are at least in that conversation as potentially, going for a top 5 pick. The Jags, they haven't won a game away from home this year. They've lost 5 straight. The Tennessee Titans have only won, I think, 1 game at home this year. They're coming off of a loss. There's not a lot to hang your hat on, really, I think, for either one of these football teams. What I think obviously could be really notable in this game is the Jags. What are the Jags doing at quarterback? Trevor Lawrence with a very severe concussion that he suffered last week at the hands of Azeez Al-Shaair. He was placed on IR earlier today. He's going to miss 4 games. Machine Gun Mac Daddy starts. Fair enough. Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting Mac Jones is there. Like, I guess I keep forgetting Mac Jones exists, but that's right. Mac Jones is there. So, I mean, with the way Lawrence has played this year, is that a huge downgrade? I don't necessarily, just with the way Jacksonville's played in general. Like, neither one of these teams are very good. Once again, this is a game where you have to buy an extra hook against the spread. Right now, the line's 3.5 points. And it's 3.5 points on a team that, say what we will, is 0-5 against the spread at home. I definitely can't do that. So if I'm not going to lay the 3.5 points, that's such a thin margin, I might as well take the dog. So we're going to start with 2 straight upsets here. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars go into Tennessee and beat the Titans. And Louis just made a good point in the chat. Like, the Titans are better than I think both of these teams are technically better than their record. I don't know by a lot. Keith Bailey, who just got mentioned in the chat a little bit earlier, would probably have something to say about that. But I think these 2 teams are probably in general a little bit better than what their records are. But again, if I got to buy that extra hook on the 0.5 point on a team that hasn't covered a spread at home this year at all, can't do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say the Jags get their first road win of the season. Give me the Jags to win the game outright. So obviously, taking the +3.5 on Jacksonville on the road. Total in the game set at 39.5 points. These 2 teams have combined to hit 14 overs this year. So that feels fairly strong to me. I think I'm going to go ahead and take an over on a pretty beatable number, 39.5. Let's go like a 24-23. This feels like it could be another walk-off opportunity. 24-23 in favor of the Jags, who win, cover, and give me an over on the points. Battle of the AFC East as the New York Jets take on the Miami Dolphins. This game is in Miami. Dolphins come into this game on the long week, having, of course, played the Packers on Thanksgiving. They lost that game. The Jets are losers of 3 straight. They're also only 1-4 away from home this year, and there's obviously a lot of turmoil that is going on in New York. Add that to the fact that they may be without one of their better defensive players, them being the Jets. Sauce Gardner dealing with a hamstring injury. That's a situation to monitor. Like, no decision has been made here one way or the other. But I mean, if he doesn't play, that is a huge loss for the Jets on the defensive side. Does Aaron Rodgers still start this game? Is he still the starting quarterback for this team? Has he already played his last game as a Jet? There's all kinds of questions and issues surrounding this Jets team. Whereas just because the Dolphins went to Lambeau and got beat by the elements doesn't mean this Dolphins team is not very good. They've been playing some excellent football lately, especially on the offensive side. Give me the Dolphins here all day. Miami at home gets a big win in a division game over the Jets. Now, Dolphins are laying -6 in this game, and they're only 2-4 against the spread at home this year. Jets are only 1-4 against the spread away from home this year. So neither one of these teams has been super impressive against the line, but it's less than a touchdown. I think I got to lay that based on how the Dolphins offense has been playing over the last month or so. Let's go ahead and lay that -6, although I do feel a little uneasy about it. Total in the game set at 45. This is a situational over to me. In this situation, that being Miami at home, Jets on the road. These two teams have combined to hit 7 of 11 overs this year. So give me an over on a middling 40. Let's go like 30-20, something like that. Still a competitive game, but I think the Dolphins win, the Dolphins cover, and I'll take the over on the 45-point total. And the last game we're going to look at before we look at the Falcons and Vikings is the New Orleans Saints on the road in New York taking on the Giants. So the Giants are coming in off the long week, played on Thanksgiving. Both of these teams coming in off of a loss. The Giants have lost 7 straight in complete disarray at the quarterback position. I guess they go back to Tommy DeVito, assuming he's healthy. I guess it's DeVito's ball, because it's not like Drew Lock did a ton in that game last week to, wrestle the starting job away from anybody. Giants, losers of 7 straight, have not won a game at home this year, 0-6 straight up. The Saints are only 1-4 away from home, but genuinely, they're another team that I think are certainly better than what their record indicates, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think we talk about the Saints defense enough. Now, obviously, as everybody knows, Taysom Hill suffered a really gruesome knee injury last week. He is done for the season. I don't expect he's healthy and ready by the beginning of next year. Hopefully by late October, early November, we see Taysom Hill on the field again. Dude's such a weapon. But he's got a ton of really significant ACL injury plus in that knee. So, obviously we're not going to see him again anytime soon. That said, the Saints team still has weapons. You could see Chris Olave back this week. I don't know if that's been announced or anything, but it's something you could very well wind up seeing. And look, the Giants are very firmly in that we're playing for a top 5 pick. We're in the hashtag suck for Shador sweepstakes. So I don't think the Giants are interested in winning games at this point in the season. I think if they show that they know the sport that they're playing and Tyrone Tracy looks good, that's about all they really care about as far as I'm concerned. They're definitely in a sweepstakes to get a top quarterback in the draft. So give me the Saints, because I think the Saints are at least still trying to win football games. On the line, the Giants are taking +4.5 here as a fairly strong home dog, but they're only 1-5 against the spread at home this year. Now, the Saints are only, I think, like 1-2 as road favorites or something like that. So not like they're, setting the league on fire away from home, but it's only 4.5 points. I think they cover this number fairly comfortably. Total in the game set at 41, and this one's kind of tough. The Saints have hit 7 overs this year. The Giants have only hit 4, and the Giants are only 1-5 to the over at home. So I think I got to lean under on this. I don't think we're going to see an offensive explosion, and I think this Saints defense definitely keeps the Giants under 2 touchdowns. So I think I got to go under on this. Under 41 points in New Orleans, New York. Let's go like a 24-13, something like that. Saints win. Saints cover the -4.5. Give me an under on the points. All right, very quickly, let's get caught up in chat here. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Oh, here we go. I got childhood. This is Kat. I got a childhood friend who's a Vikings fan whose name is Chris. So for me, it's also Chris versus Chris game. I like that. Lions are really banged up now. That comes from Gio. Andrew, Green Bay and Detroit could be a 7:02 call this week. We enjoy that. Andrew, what's the drink of the week? This is a cran lemonade. I think like a cranberry lemonade. It's good. I like it. Water it down a little bit. It's good stuff. Kat, my preseason Super Bowl pick is still alive. Don't think either team will win their division, but they could both still make the playoffs. Gio talking about Detroit, lost to Tampa Bay. That's right. That's who they lost to in week 2. Spread has moved to Detroit -3 and then back to -3.5. Tyler, the best in the biz is back. The best in the biz never leaves, baby. The best in the biz, he always here. He never goes anywhere. Appreciate you. How you doing? Kat, that hook is too risky, way too risky. Take the points. Gio, JR's pimping his team. You know I am. Louis, who are you? Who are you? Who? Pat going down. Oh, no, don't do that to me. Ouch. If Green Bay beats Detroit, I'm wearing my I Love Breakfast shirt. Excellent. Jacksonville, Tennessee game canceled due to lack of interest. Gio, the number of times that I steal that line, I bet you I've said that 10 times this year. I always credit you because that's your line. So I always credit you when I say it. But I'm pretty sure I've used that line like 10 times this year. Tighten up because Lou Man says so. You're funny, Gio. Giants picking first in the draft next year. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like they're definitely a team that's in that conversation. So if they do pick first, do you think they go Shador? Louis, we're still mathematically alive. I think you're talking about the Titans there, yeah? Kat, Keith sobbing in the corner somewhere. Boy, oh boy. Yes is my go-to line. Love it. Machine Gun Mac Daddy starts. Mac Jones is not a friendly guy in New England. It should have been Rourke. Thank you, Kat. Yes, it should have been Nathan Rourke. Instead, Nathan Rourke's back in the CFL, and he's going to absolutely blister the league for the next 2 or 3 years. So thank you, NFL, for not knowing what you had. I guess I'll give you credit for that take. Jags 3-15 straight up runs since last year. Oh, that's disgusting. Teams are 8-17-1 against the spread after the bye. Wow. That's tough. That's not good. Yikes. Louis says Jets win. Gio says Dolphins will beat the Jets by at least 20. Lay the points. Can Rodgers go to the CFL not as a player but as a coach? Not interested. We don't allow ayahuasca in the CFL. Green Bay outclasses Miami. Don't hold that loss against Miami too much. They're a good team. Absolutely. 100%. Both New Orleans and the Giants are in a toilet bowl. Nah, the Saints are still alive. The Saints are still alive just because of that division. Saints win and cover. New Orleans is still trying, but the Giants are mailing it in for the number 1 overall pick. Kat says, crazy the Saints are still in contention for that division after the 7-game losing streak they had. And Corey says, rooting for Green Bay this week with my Texans on bye. Appreciate you, boss. All right, the Atlanta Falcons on the road in Minnesota taking on the Vikings. This is a tale of teams going in completely opposite directions. The Falcons have lost 3 straight, a very tenuous hold on the lead in that division. The Vikings are winners of 5 consecutive games. They're 4-1 at home. They're a team that my model really, really likes. Mostly on the defensive side. I think their offense has taken a couple of steps back from what they were doing earlier in the year, but that defense is still very good. One of the better defenses across the entire league. Whereas Atlanta, man, the calls for Michael Penix Jr. are already very loud, and I think they're going to get louder. Like this Falcons offense has been very, very bad over the last month. Like efficiency in the toilet, 16 points a game. They have enough weapons that this shouldn't be the case. And with better quarterback play, it wouldn't be. So the calls for Michael Penix are real, and they're getting very, very loud. Vikings do potentially have to deal with not having Stephon Gilmore. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. Once again, I kind of have my way of looking at hamstring injuries. I lean that the player's not going to play. Soft tissue, it's like concussions, but soft tissue with those kinds of injuries, you see so often that a player is like on track to play and then can't, or starts the game and leaves very quickly. So I'm going to lean that Stephon Gilmore does not play in this game, which should bode better for Atlanta's offense. But again, the offense is playing so poorly and the defense has been nothing special. In fact, they've been like below league average. I don't know how anybody can not be on the Vikings in this game. Look, I mean, upsets happen all the time, but the Vikings are objectively the better football team here, and I think they win this game. So give me the Minnesota Vikings at home to get the win over the Falcons. Against the spread, the Vikings are laying -5.5. Falcons have only covered one spread this year as a road dog. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lay the points here on Minnesota. -5.5. It's under a touchdown. Yes, these are probably 2 playoff teams, but the Falcons certainly aren't playing like one right now. So I'm going to lay the -5.5. Total in the game set at 45.5 points. It's a pretty middling number to beat, but these two teams have only combined to hit 8 overs all season long. So give me the under in this one. Under 45.5 points in Minnesota, Atlanta. I'm going to go like a 26-16 final in favor of the Vikes. So Minnesota wins. Minnesota covers the -5.5. Give me an under on the points. Oh, Gio wins that match 10 times out of 10. Gio fights dirty. We all know Gio fights dirty. Gio's the Ric Flair of the YouTube prognosticators community. He'll go for the eyes. He'll go for the balls. Gio's going to do whatever he needs to do to win. That's our boy, and we love him for it. All right, the Carolina Panthers on the road in Philadelphia, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, winners of 8 consecutive games, a team that my model absolutely loves across the board. And a Carolina Panthers team that, look, excuse me. Something in the universe is trying to kill me. Somebody's got a voodoo doll. Okay. Panthers have lost 2 straight. They've only won 1 game away from home this year. We know objectively that Panthers are not a good football team. However, worth pointing out, Eagles are not going to have Reed Blankenship. That's a significant piece of their secondary. He suffered a concussion last week. He ain't playing this week. So that is definitely a drop. This has a crazy spread. The spread is 12.5 points. It's a college spread. I've talked about this for years. Hate college spreads. Yes, the Eagles are 3-1 in Philly. Yes, they've won 8 straight games. This Carolina Panthers team is better than they're given credit for. You know, of the top 10 most efficient offenses over the last month, among them is the Carolina Panthers, believe it or not. Of the top 10 most efficient defenses over the last month, the team that's in 10th, there's a three-way tie. It's Tampa, Philly, and the Chargers. They all have scores, efficiency scores, in their last 4 games of 17.0. Right behind them, at 16.9, is the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, they give up a ton of yardage. They're only giving up 24 points a game over their last 4. That is at least serviceable. You can at least try to win with that defensive performance. The Panthers right now are playing free of expectations. Nobody expects anything from the Panthers. All they want to see is some progress from Bryce Young, which is what they're seeing. All they want to see is this dynamic young running back duo of Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. That's what they're seeing. You're seeing Adam Thielen turn back the clock, making crazy one-handed catches like they're going out of style. This Panthers team all of a sudden is fun to watch. So, while I don't think they go to Philly and beat Philly, I'm taking the Eagles to win. I will remortgage my home on Panthers plus 12.5. I knew this number was going to be juicy. I didn't think it was going to be double digits. It's funny I say I'd remortgage my house. My house mortgage is not in my name. So I'm going to remortgage somebody else's house on plus 12.5. But like, nobody should be laying this many points. In this game, it makes no sense. So, Philly wins, Panthers plus 12.5. Total in the game set at 46. I do think I have to take a marginal over here because I do think Carolina is going to score their points. So I'm going to go like a 28-21, something like that. Give me a game where we have 7 touchdowns and the Eagles win, but give me that plus 12.5 on Carolina. Eagles win, Panthers cover, over on the points. Another division matchup, this time of the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Pittsburgh were winners last week. Cleveland lost after beating Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. Now they have the rematch. This time it is in Pittsburgh. So the Browns come into this game only 1-5 away from home, and this is back-to-back road games for Cleveland. They're also on a short week, having just played on Monday night in Denver against the Broncos. Yeah, okay. I thought I was crazy. So I still think that Cleveland, even though, again, they won that game a couple weeks ago, Cleveland is still very firmly in this like top 5 draft pick conversation. I think they're arguably trying to win games a little more than some of the other teams that are in this conversation because like Jameis Winston is objectively a good story. Objectively a good story. I think Pittsburgh hammers them. I think Pittsburgh hammers them this week. They're 4-1 at home. And again, revenge for a couple of weeks ago, where you could make the argument that the Steelers lost to the elements as much as they lost to the team on the other side. Maybe that's not a great argument, but I think that's at least an argument that can be made. I love Jameis Winston. I love the story. I think Pittsburgh fustigates them this week. So definitely give me the Steelers at home to beat the Browns. On the line, the Steelers are laying -6.5. They are 4-1 against the spread at home. Cleveland, I think, only has 2 road covers this year. So let's go ahead and lay the -6.5 here on Mr. Unlimited and the Steelers. Total in the game set at 44 points. I think this is going to be an over for me. I think the Steelers have hit 7 overs this year. It's a middling number. I just think they beat it. So give me an over on the 44 points. Give me like a 30-17, 31-17, something like that. Steelers win. Steelers cover the -6.5 and give me an over on the 44-point total. And the last game we're going to look at before we skip ahead to Sunday Night Football, which is between the Chargers and Chiefs, high-profile matchup there. We're first going to look at the Las Vegas Raiders on the road in Tampa Bay, taking on the Bucs. So, Raiders are losers of 8 straight games. This is back-to-back road games for them as well. Only 1-6 on the road this season. Definitely a team that's in that top 5 pick conversation. Would certainly be in the suck for Shador sweepstakes, where I think they definitely need a quarterback. We've seen enough of the Aiden O'Connell experiment that we know it's not him. Gardner Minshew's probably not sticking around, so I can't imagine it's him. So who's the guy? Like Aiden O'Connell is a backup quarterback. That's not even mean of me to say. It means he's one of the 64 best quarterbacks in the world. Like, or at least one of the 64 of the top quarterbacks in the world. Like he's a backup quarterback that belongs in the NFL, but is not a starter. We'll put it that way. The Bucs are winners of 2 straight games, still competitive in, of course, their weak division. They're only 2-4 at home, so they have not found a lot of success in Tampa Bay. What I will say is I like their defense lately. I think their efficiency at the very least is like top 10. I think I just mentioned them earlier, like a 17. So league wide, it's the top 10. They're giving up less than 21 points a game over that span. Obviously, they've been hit with injuries on the offensive side of the ball, but there's still offensive weapons there that I really like. Baker Mayfield has been one of the better stories in the league this season. Again, I think we've got one team here that's trying to win and one team that's not. Give me the team that's trying to win. Let's go with the Bucs at home to get a big win over the Raiders. On the line, the Bucs are laying -6.5. They are 3-2 against the spread at home this year, I want to say. Either at home or as a home favorite or something like that. They're no, it can't be that. I think they're 3-2 against the spread at home. So I'll kind of lean on that, I suppose. Let's go ahead and lay the -6.5 here on Tampa Bay. Total in the game set at 46. These two teams have combined to hit 16 overs this year. So we're definitely going to be over on this one. Over 46 points in Tampa Bay, Las Vegas. I don't see any way this game doesn't get into a 50. So I'm going to go like 33-18, something like that. Oh, a bit of a weird score, but I think it gets into the 50s. So really like the over. Give me the Bucs to win and give me the Bucs to cover. All right, let's see. Let's get caught up in chat here before we go to Sunday Night Football. Gio, Falcons are the trendy pick against the Vikings this week. I think people are forgetting that Kirk Cousins plays for Atlanta now, not Minnesota. Entirely possible, Gio. Kat, I don't know what to do with this Vikings team at all. My brain just can't wrap it around my head that this team is a contender. I kind of feel the same way. I was fading them there for a couple of weeks because I was like, some of these underlying numbers I don't like the look of at all, and it feels like a collapse is coming. And the collapse just kind of never came. So like they're very much a contender. I think it's a bit of a reflection of the fact that they play in the same division as Detroit, and Detroit is getting all the headlines right now. Cousins hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 straight games. That should change this week as he will throw some pick 6 touchdowns to the other team. Zing. Gio is on point tonight. Cat, they've had games the last few weeks where it felt like they were giving them away, yet somehow they find a way to win in the end. Absolutely. Like they're a team with tenacity. They're absolutely. Andrew. Oh yeah, facts. Okay, finally, Cat's time to shine talking about double-digit favorites. Week 12, Commanders favored by 10.5, lost the game outright. KC favored by 10.5, only won by 3. The curse is active and it shows. Andrew, I'm not crazy for double-digit spreads. I don't care if anyone plays Carolina or not. Don't take double digits 80% of the time. Gio, Panthers finally healthy. Great game against Kansas City. Eagles beaten up after the Ravens game. Battle of Pennsylvania coming up next week with Pittsburgh. Ultimate sandwich game for Philly. Yeah, absolutely. Look, if the Eagles get caught looking ahead, they could conceivably lose that game outright. There were points earlier in the season where it's like, man, this Eagles team is vulnerable. They're not looking like it right now, but there were points earlier in the season where it was like, man, this team does not look like it should. Cat, week 13, Lions at 1 point favored by 10, only won by 4. Chiefs favored by 12.5, only won by 2. In all caps, hammer the plus 12.5. Remortgage the home alone house, says Andrew. Pittsburgh are a sleeper team. Steelers get their revenge against the Browns, who are really fun to watch. Absolutely, Gio. I agree with that. Cat, God, is the Pittsburgh team actually contenders? What the hell is this season? Gio, Jameis threw for 500 yards on Monday Night Football. Absolutely. Cat echoing my unlimited. And they're letting him cook, and he's cooking, talking about Russ. Yeah, absolutely. 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. How was Russ not the AFC Offensive Player of the Week? It's a great question. Who was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week? I can't remember now. But no, you're right. That's a massive game for Russ. Gio, Raiders play the shadiest football of any team. They've blown chances to win and even cover. So corrupt. Cat, I'd start AOC over Watson. You're talking about the politician AOC or Aiden O'Connell? We might have a conversation on the politician. Okay, let's see. Bucks have a lot to play for. Absolutely. Gio, Raiders rookie tight end Brock Bowers, number 4 overall in reception yards, including wide receivers. It's massive. Crazy. That's why I wanted him so bad in Dynasty. I kind of had a feeling like this guy's going to be the focal point of this offense, even if the offense is bad. Cat says, crazy how he's not the unanimous rookie of the year pick. Oh, they gave it to Josh Allen. Yeah, fair enough. Panner Chucker says, love the show. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. All right, Sunday Night Football, the Los Angeles Chargers in Kansas City taking on the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not lost at Arrowhead yet this season. They are 6-0 there. They are winners of 2 straight games. The Chargers 4-2 away from home. It's back-to-back road games for the Chargers. They did win last week, and they're still alive in this division. The Chiefs have clinched a playoff spot, but have not yet clinched the division. So the Chargers are still alive in this conversation. And look, this is a matchup of 2 teams that it's weird. They almost feel like they should have each other's numbers over the last month. So the Chargers are a top 5 most efficient offense and a top 10 most efficient defense, but aren't generating a ton of yards and giving up a bunch. That sounds like the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are kind of milquetoast across the board. In fact, they are the one of only 2 teams, along with the Rams, who are not top 10 or bottom 10 in anything that I look at in my efficiency model. Across the board, it's nothing but white. Like, it's nothing but milquetoast. They are average, statistically speaking, across the board. Obviously, they're not average. That team is exceptionally special, but they've been average. Two teams that know each other very well. One of the premier quarterback matchups in the AFC, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. At some point, everybody gets got. And the way the Chiefs have been winning this season, doing my best Tommy DeVito impression, the way the Chiefs have been winning this season has been, skin of their teeth type wins. They're not out here dominating teams like you would expect the Chiefs would. Now, look, at the end of the day, they're going to be right there. They're going to be right there in the AFC conversation. But I think they've underplayed their record. There are teams we've talked about that have overplayed their record, better than the record would indicate. Panner Chucker just put it right in the chat. This has not been an 11-1 team. They're just not. But they've got that special something. They've got that je ne sais quoi that seems to get the job done when it matters the most, until they don't. This is a week where I think they don't. I think they're catching a pretty darn good team at the wrong time. In terms of KC's not playing at their apex, Chargers are playing quite well. If anybody's going to get them, it feels like it's going to be a division rival. Feels like it's either going to be the Chargers or the Broncos. If somebody's going to get them, I think it's the Chargers, and I think it's this week. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the upset. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers on the road in Kansas City. They're healthy aside from J.K. Dobbins, and that is a big miss. They're definitely missing J.K. Dobbins at the running back position. That's definitely a weapon that's not there. I want to see them use Kimani Vidal. Like, Kimani Vidal is the running back to own in that room right now from a fantasy perspective. Gus Edwards is kind of running on fumes. Kimani Vidal is the guy. He's a receiver. He can run between the numbers. He can run laterally. He's a very good weapon that they're not using as well as they could. So I think they start using him this week. I think this is like a breakout game for Vidal, and I think the Chargers win this thing. Give me Los Angeles on the road in Kansas City to beat the Chiefs. On the line, Kansas City is laying -4. They're only 2-4 against the spread at home. Now, granted, Vegas throws some big spreads at them because they're the Chiefs. They've earned that. Chargers are 4-2 against the spread on the road. One way or the other, I think you hedge on this game. +4, I like that. I certainly like it because I think they win outright. But either way, I'd be taking the +4. Total in the game here set at 43. I think this is a pretty good number. I do think they beat it just barely. So I'm going to go over on the 43-point total. I'm going to go 24-21. Maybe it's who's their kicker? It's Dicker, isn't it? Dicker the kicker? Maybe Dicker the kicker walks this thing off and the Chargers get the win in Kansas City. So Chargers win, Chargers cover the +4, and a marginal over on the points. All right, 3 quickies, and then we're into Monday Night Football. This episode has run a little longer than I was planning it to, but that's okay. Pretty intriguing matchup here. The Seattle Seahawks on the road in Arizona taking on the Arizona Cardinals. This is a battle of two teams that my model likes a lot, especially on the defensive side. Whole lot of green in the defensive ledger for both of these teams. Arizona, top 5 across the board in defensive efficiency, yards per game, and points per game allowed. You look at Seattle, top 10 in efficiency, top 5 in yardage, top 5 in points. This is going to be a defensive battle between these two teams. Points will be at a premium, so I'll rip the Band-Aid off right now. I'm taking the under on the 44.5 point total. Definitely taking the under. Arizona's only got 2 overs at home this year anyway. I want to join the crowd at this point. I'm going to say, hey, Martin, It's like everybody in the chat is saying hello to Martin. So I'm going to say hello to Martin too. This is the tail end of back-to-back road games for the Seahawks, who have won 3 straight. Arizona losers of back-to-back games. Seattle's won 3 straight, and they're 4-1 away from home. This is a team that has historically not traveled very well, but this season, they've been playing very well away from Seattle. Something that's worth monitoring, Ken Walker just got a Q tag coming out of practice today. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Zach Charbonnet would be the one to step up in his absence if for some reason Ken Walker was unable to play. Hopefully not. He's on my dynasty, one of my dynasty teams. So hopefully he plays. But if he doesn't, it's going to be Zach Charbonnet next man up. I like the Seahawks here. I really do. Between these two teams, I think I trust Seattle's offense right now a little bit more. From an efficiency perspective, Arizona's bottom 10 in the last month. They're generating fairly similar numbers, but it's taking Arizona more to generate those numbers. And in, again, a defensive battle where I think points are going to be at a premium, if the defenses are kind of a push, which I think they kind of are, give me the team with the marginally better offense. I like the Seahawks actually for the upset here. Arizona's a marginal home favorite at -2.5. Seattle has covered 3 spreads away from home this year, including a push in 5 games. I like the +2.5. I like Seattle to win this game outright for their 4th consecutive win. Seattle goes to Arizona and beats the Cards. So obviously against the spread, give me the +2.5 on the Seattle Seahawks. And as I said, I'm going under on the 44.5 point total. Let's go 21-20. Let's go right there. Super close matchup. 2 very similar teams. I just like Seattle to get it done. So Seahawks win. Seahawks cover the +2.5 and give me an under on the 44.5 point total. This next one's going to be fairly quick. The Buffalo Bills on the road in Los Angeles taking on the Rams. The Rams are a team that I think is good, not great. Don't really have a ton of faith in them. Don't really trust the eye test. I just don't feel good about this team with the eye test. Sometimes they look like world beaters, and sometimes they look like, what sport are you playing? Like it just seems to be no balance there. Worth pointing out that not only have the Buffalo Bills clinched a playoff spot, they have clinched the AFC East. Nobody can catch them. Buffalo's definitely going to the playoffs as the representative from the AFC East. My model absolutely loves them. They're winners of 7 straight games with good reason. They're 4-2 on the road this year, so they're finding success both in and away from Buffalo across the board. Offense is churning along. Defense is playing fairly well as well. I think this is just a classic matchup of too much versus not enough. Give me the Buffalo Bills on the road here to win that 8th straight game. Bills go into LA and beat the Rams. So on the line, the Bills are taking +4 on the road. Or no, sorry, the Rams are taking +4, sorry, as the pretty big home dog. And they've only covered 2 spreads at home this year, has Los Angeles. So Vegas has not been kind to them in home games. I like Buffalo to cover this number. Give me the -4 on the Bills. Total in the game, sort of 49.5 points. I think I actually have to go under on this. The Bills have hit 7 overs this year, but only 2 of those have come on the road. So lower scoring games, 49.5, it's almost a 50. So I think I'm going to take the under here. 49.5 points, under 49.5 in Buffalo, Los Angeles. We're going to go 28-20 in favor of the Bills. Bills win. Bills cover the -4. Give me an under on the points. And then the last game we're going to look at before we get to Monday Night Football is the Chicago Bears on the road in San Francisco, taking on a 49ers team that is not only without Christian McCaffrey, but is also without Jordan Mason. So their top 2 running backs both hit IR on the same day. It is hashtag Isaac Guerendo season. So yeah, obviously that's the big storyline there with the Niners is that team just cannot get and stay healthy. It's just impossible for them. So they're without Christian McCaffrey. They're without Jordan Mason. They've lost 3 straight games. The Bears have lost 6. Obviously not a good run of games here for the Bears. And the Bears have not won a game away from home this year. They are 0-5 away from Chicago. This is the tail end of back-to-back road games for Chicago, but they do have the benefit of the long week, having played on Thursday. It's kind of across the board for Chicago, but the primary issue remains with the offense. I mean, they don't move the ball. They don't have that kind of killer instinct to put the ball in the end zone and generate a bunch of points. Touchdowns become field goals. Field goals become nothing if you're the Chicago Bears. But, of course, as Gio just pointed out, Matt Eberflus is no longer in town. So we will finally get to see just how much of it was Eberflus and how much of it was a curse. We'll see. We'll see what I wonder what it feels like to just be like the one bad team in a division. What does that feel like? As a Packers fan, I wouldn't know. All right, look, I'm sorry, Bears fans did not deserve that. They 100% did not deserve that. I'm just kind of delaying the inevitable here. Even though CMC and Mason are both out with knee injuries, CMC's PCL injury, he's on IR, might as well shut him down for the season as far as I'm concerned. Mason, an ankle injury, he's on IR. That could cost him his season as well. I want to see what Isaac Guerendo has as a lead back. That's very exciting to me. I only got him on waivers in one of my 8 leagues, so I was kind of unlucky there, but he went from like 2% rostered to 70% rostered overnight. So a lot of people buying into what they're selling there with Guerendo. I like the Niners here to win this game outright, so let's take San Francisco at home to get the win over Chicago. On the line, the Niners are laying -4. Chicago's only covered 1 spread this season away from home in 5 games. So 4 points. I think the Niners cover that. So let's lay the -4 on San Francisco. Total in the game set at 44. I don't have a ton of faith in either of these teams on the offensive side of the ball. Give me an under in this one. Under 44 points in San Francisco, Chicago. Give me like a 24-16, something like that. The game barely scrapes 40. Niners win. Niners cover the -4 and under on the 44-point total. And before we talk about Monday Night Football, let's get caught up in the chat. I'm going to come up here a little bit. Let's see. KC versus the Chargers, another 702 call, says Andrew. Kat says, God, I want to pick the Chargers, but no Dobbins makes it hard. Don't worry, Kat, I got you back. I've been taking the man's money back in the Chargers this year. Interesting. Matt says, you're doing a good job this year. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you're not Matt Eberflus because I just talked a bunch of shit on you if you are. No, it's Matt F. But Matt, I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. This is from Panner Chucker. Don't get me wrong. The Chiefs are great, but I feel like they were better last year. I think objectively so, and should definitely not be 11-1. I agree. KC will win another one less than 7 points, says Martin. Someone's going to get these Chiefs, says Corey. I agree. Could be the beginning of the end with KC. That might be a bit much. Again, I think the Chiefs are still going to be right there at the end of the season. I just don't think they're an 11-1 team. All it takes is one loss and Kansas City's going to crumble, at least this year. Interesting. Kat, I mean, if we're relating to KC to the 2020 Steelers, the downfall starts now. One can only hope, right? Interesting. Then we have a bunch of people saying hello to Martin, which was adorable, and my community is the best. Kat, every time I try to give hope to Arizona, they shit the bed on me. I want to believe in them, but they can't be consistent. It's kind of how I feel about Seattle. Not going to lie. Bills playing for the top seed. They like to run up the score, so no chance of a backdoor cover. Like it. It's not in Buffalo, so it could be close with nice weather. Rams may cover. That comes from Andrew. Kat says Rams about to get an ass whooping. I don't think it'll be pretty. Gio makes the point about Eberflus being done. Martin, Bears defense is playing very good. Should cause some issues with the ailing Niner offense. What I will say is, like, the Bears have been giving up quite a bit of yardage over the last month, but their efficiency is fine. Like, they're only giving up 23 points a game in their last 4. So that's not bad at all. So yeah, from an efficiency perspective, they're kind of right there. It's just I feel like the offense doesn't give them a chance in these games. Niners injuries in Chicago having a new coach makes me want to take that +4. Corey, thoughts on Azeez? Look, I'm glad I don't have to be the one to make these decisions. Like, who's getting suspended, who's getting fined. I'm glad I don't have to make these decisions. I don't really know if I have an opinion one way or the other. It sucked. Like, you don't want to see that happen to a guy who is still potentially like a young face of the league, even though he's been in the league for a few years now. It sucked. I'm not gonna hate on Azeez. I think maybe a 3-game suspension, which I think is what they gave him, might be a little rough, but I get the feeling it's probably going to get reduced on appeal. Because, I mean, there's no reason for him to not appeal. So he will, and it'll certainly get reduced. Whether that's a reduction to 1 game or 2, tough to say. I think it got upheld. Really? Interesting. Wow. Okay. I do think 3 games is a little much. I feel like the suspension was given based on result, whereas, like, if the concussion wouldn't have been bad enough for Lawrence to go on IR, it wouldn't have been 3 games. Repeat offender. Oh, that could certainly play into it. Yeah. Repeat offender. Maybe he is. I can't think right off the top of my head. I think he might be, actually. I don't know. Can't say. But yeah, feels like 3 games is a bit much. But that's about all I've got to say on it, because I really don't have any answers for that. All right. Cincinnati in Dallas. Monday Night Football. Cowboys, winners of 2 straight games. Have the benefit of the long week, having played on Thursday. Cincinnati has lost 3 straight. Not totally out of it, I don't think, but the purest definition maybe that I've ever seen of a glass cannon. They are a top 5 offense across the board. They're scoring 35 points a game, like 415 yards a game. They're scoring a ton. Can't stop anybody on defense to save their soul. This defense is terrible. Inarguably, over the last month, the worst defense in football. The Cowboys, God bless them, they're trying. This defense is not good either. The difference here being this offense cannot produce like the Bengals offense can. Objectively. This Cowboys offense is severely limited by the guy that's under center, or the potential guys that could be under center. The health of CeeDee Lamb obviously doesn't help that, and I think he re-aggravated his AC joint injury last week, which doesn't make things any better. I think Cincinnati dog walks Dallas this week. I think Cincinnati destroys them. Just like more than doubles them up. I think Cincinnati makes an example out of the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. And I think it might get Mike McCarthy fired. That's just me. That's just me. So I'm obviously very heavy on Cincinnati in this game. They have to. They have like they have no alternative. If they're going to try to make a run, I don't know if they've got enough room left to make a run and sneak into the playoffs as the 7 seed. But it has to be now. They basically have to win out from here. So it's going to start off. It's going to start off well with absolutely clobbering the Dallas Cowboys. Cincinnati, for all their struggles this season, are 5-1 against the spread away from home. Like, that's pretty damn good. They're doing pretty well against Vegas away from home. The Cowboys have only won one game at home this year, and they've only covered once at home this year because, of course, home games they're probably going to be favorites, and they haven't been winning. So let's lay the -5.5. And total in this game, 49.5 points. These two teams have combined to hit 17 overs this season. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the over in this one. Over 49.5 points in Dallas and Cincinnati. I am going to go with a final score of 39-17. Clobber them. 39-17. The Bengals dog walk the Cowboys. That's one of the most lopsided scores I think I've ever predicted on this show. So if the Cowboys win, boy, I don't know what I'll do. I'll have to do something. I've put it out there now. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the show for this week. Those are the picks. Those are the plays for week number 14 in the NFL in 2024. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We will see you again in week 15. This episode ran a little bit long. We will endeavor to fix that in the coming weeks and tighten things up a little bit. Thank you so much, and we will see you again next week. All right, that is the podcast portion of the show now taken care of and in the books. Somebody just asked me in the chat, 39, an interesting score. Where did that come from? So 39 is, what are we looking at here? We're looking at 5 touchdowns, a field goal, and one of those touchdowns converted with a 2-pointer. Because part of that is Kat just put in the chat since he doesn't have McPherson. So I don't want to be in a situation where I'm predicting a bunch of field goals. So, some minimal kicker involvement other than kicking extra points, which, I mean, college kickers can kick extra points. So I'm sure whoever they have in there can handle that. So that's kind of the way I looked at it was, 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal, but one of those touchdowns converted as a 2-pointer. All right. I've already almost had you here for an hour 20. So let's just quickly go through the rest of these and then we'll get you out of here. Let's see. QB's got a slide earlier. Azeez was defending the first down. It's an impossible situation because we're back to being overprotective of quarterbacks, as is shown this year. Some quarterbacks have taken advantage of that protection. Absolutely. Their defense is bad. The Progs could form a team and we'd probably be able to score double digits on them. Let's see. Jerry Jones thinks he knows it all. Cincinnati is no walk in the park. Worst Monday Night Football game ever, and Mike McCarthy gets the boot. I might not be the only one there, I guess, that thinks that this might be it for McCarthy. Dallas winning meaningless games. I know, right? 2 straight wins. They'd start Lance if they had half a brain. Win or lose, they need to see what they have in him. I agree. 100%. I don't have anything against Cooper Rush. I just don't really. It's kind of like an Aiden O'Connell situation. He's better than Aiden O'Connell, but I don't really think he's the guy. They should have been starting Lance, see if he's worth anything, and try to get some value for him. There you go. Exactly. Let's see. Book recommendation, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Interesting. If you get 39 on the nose, I'll mention you, and that's awesome. Justin, how do I deal with my emotions with Justin Tucker without resorting to alcoholism? Okay, we'll get you out of here on this. Let's see. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me demonetized. Let's say, oh, here we go. I know how. You're going to have to wait a little bit. In fact, you're going to have to wait a little more than a month. But here's how you're going to do it. You're going to get over it with the 11th lineal Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, which are coming up in January. It's the best I got, Kat. See you next week.